So
hey,
then,
no intro, no nothing. We're all here. I hit the live button.
I gotta go. I'm sorry.
yeah.
What's up?
Said I gotta go. I'm sorry.
You gotta go.
You're going to need to reschedule.
Yeah, you know, those things happen. So yeah, we're talking Usagi Yojimbo, which we just discussed. We hadn't talked in over almost a year. So we're back.
We'll make it longer than it actually is.
Yeah, we had to wait for Volume 7 to come out because, you know, it came out.
Is that what it was?
1992 or whatever it was. So
that's not when they printed it.
Well, that's the first printing it lists on here is 1992.
All right.
If you look in the book. So that's what this one says.
Yeah, I'll be born 3 years from then.
Yeah, so early.
Wait, say that again?
I said I'll be born 3 years after that.
All right, I'm done.
You're done?
Where do you get this guy?
I don't know.
This finished up when I finished high school.
I was in high school, so yeah, I don't know. I can't say anything. So yeah, we got a youngster in here with us, but that's okay.
I mean, Whale was on his third wife by then. The immortal Rasputin.
I was gonna say I am an immortal, so.
All right, well, we got Gordon and GTK hanging out with us, and yes, we are talking Usagi, Book 7, Jin's story. I got the whole crew with me tonight. We got Jimmy the Geek Aficionado, Louie, and White Whale Comics. We got Alex. So what's up, guys? Jimmy, how are you?
Busy.
You all look about a year older.
Yeah, he does.
Sure, I look a lot more than that.
A little more gray. Louis doesn't have to worry about that yet because he's a pup. But
I don't know about that. It's starting to creep back a little bit. So
the creep back. Well, yeah, that happens a little earlier than the gray.
I won't have to worry about it at all, probably.
Yeah. Alex, what about you? How are you, man?
What's that?
How are you?
Well, you know, Florida's on fire.
Florida is on fire.
What?
Like 100.
I mean, figuratively.
Oh, okay.
Not like Arizona.
Because I'm up here where Canada's on fire and, smoking us out.
Yeah. Well,
we do have cocaine sharks, so you hear about that?
I did. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nothing more terrifying than a shark amped up on cocaine.
Yeah, just when you think Florida can't out-Florida itself, we get cocaine sharks.
Oh, it's absolutely out-Florida.
You moved there of your own volition. You got nobody to blame but yourself.
Listen, I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's never boring. That's the way.
If there's any way to go, it's Cocaine Sharknado.
All right, a sequel to Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to watch that. I still haven't watched that yet.
All right. Well, as exciting as that is, let's talk a little Usagi, Book 7. So, as we dig into this, we'll just start with Jimmy. What are your thoughts on Book 7 now, a year later, as we dig back into this?
Actually, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great how they were able to tie up two major storylines, or I should say, the storylines of two major characters, right? Because we get Gen's origin in here. And we get the swan song of Zatoino, the samurai pig.
For sure.
So very good. I thought the storytelling, the writing in here was really good. Art good as always. From Stan Sakai. There were some points where it kind of was like, what? But it's a comic book. What are you gonna do?
Well, yeah, he does. Where it's a little. As we've had, there's definitely some supernatural again in this volume, for sure. Louis, what about you? What did you think of this volume?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it because the last one is where he's with his old flame from when he was younger, finds out he has a son, but then, they can't really do anything about it. She's going to mess up the relationship the son has with the adoptive father, I guess. So after that, it just felt like, where do we go from here? But Stan Sakai just shows how good he is by setting up more, taking what he already set up, paying it off like you said before. But yeah, it's just, I always have so much fun when I'm reading this. Like, I've been kind of burning out on just the Western comic. And while this kind of is that, but it's heavily influenced by, manga, stuff like that. I've really been going into the manga direction as of late, and I think this is probably one of the catalysts for that.
I can see that for sure. It definitely has a similar kind of style for sure. Alec, what about you? What did you think of this volume?
Yeah, I mean, it was like in overall probably one of the better ones, I'd say, or top for me at least. The longer stories were great. The short stories were amusing. Um, there's never been a volume where I'm like, everything is top tier. But I mean, and I think I've said this before. Like, I'm judging this based on the vacuum of Usagi. Like, it's all top tier compared to most things, right?
Right.
I'm talking about like apples to apples, edition to edition, issue to issue. Like the kite issue, we talked about that ad nauseum, where it's like, not my favorite one. But for me, like cover to cover, this one is pretty rock solid.
Yeah. I would agree with all three of you on this for sure. We did get kind of a step back from Usagi, as this volume definitely focuses quite a bit on the characters around him in terms of it, a little less focus on him. We talk about that we get kind of wrap up of one character, an origin for a character. Then I feel like we've got the introduction, which is our first story of a character that's going to show up a bunch later. Probably shows up continuously in Cthulouie and her,
which I'm pretty sure means fox.
Yeah.
So her name is just what she is.
Yes.
It'd be like if your name was human.
Basically, yes. So what did we think of Cthulouie? Alec, I'll let you go first on this one.
Oh, she's a real rascal.
Isn't she?
I mean, she uses her charm and her skills to, as they keep saying, do what she has to do to make a living, basically.
Yeah.
She could be doing a lot of worse stuff, but she just is, kind of this good-hearted, fun-loving pickpocket almost, where she just like, she knows she's a rapscallion and just kind of owns it.
Right. She plays into, I feel like, the kind of the trope that we see a lot in comics is kind of the thief with a heart of gold kind of thing. She's unapologetic, but she definitely, she's got that outgoing personality, and we see later that she's, willing to help people and that kind of stuff, but she's still got to look out for her. So, Louis, what did you think of Cthulouie in this, in her introduction?
I loved her. Yeah, I loved it. I know Gen's on the cover, but how each volume they just kind of have those one-off stories. I didn't think he would be meeting her at all, but immediately with meeting her, I was like, oh, she'd get along with Gen real well. And then they eventually, they do meet. So,
which I will get to.
Did you see that one go over there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the infamous kite story comes back too, which I did not expect in any way ever, with the gambler being there.
Right. Yeah.
And it was funny because I was like, I think I know him. And then they were like, hey, remember the kite story? I'm like, oh my gosh, you brought that back? Like,
I wish I could.
Of all things, yeah.
Yeah, of all things.
Yeah.
Story. Alex,
no, this is probably one of my favorite issues I've read, honestly. It's just fun.
Yeah. Jimmy, what about you? What do you think of her introduction in this story here?
Again, another, yeah. I mean, I agree with everybody. It's a great introduction of a solid, fun character, right? That plays into the story, but isn't central to the Usagi mythos, but like could be somebody for him, like in another volume that we may or may not get to in this decade. But what I did enjoy about it was that there was, like you see a lot in the books, right? There's judgment of people in different, like the gambler, and like they look down upon him, and she's a pickpocket, right? Which you would think would cause somebody to really, like kind of look negatively towards it. But I think it's because of the fact that she's, she's kind-hearted, but she's doing what she's got to do. It's where, Usagi doesn't actually go after her, like get all mad and angry. He quietly realizes that she took his purse and then quietly takes it back from her later in the story, which I thought was just marvelous. And she's like, well, you guys guess you got the better of me. So that was a fun turn, right? And it's never in the subsequent times that we see her, it's never brought up. There's no judgment, of it. There's no moral high ground, towards this character, which I found was very different, in how they handle some of the other characters. But I think that might just be between the character being male or female.
Yeah, I think that's maybe some of it, and I think he genuinely, like, in their brief interaction, I think he genuinely likes her, and he realizes when he interacts with her again. So it plays into the little bit of the less of a, sexual nature like you get with like Catwoman and Batman or something like that, but it's kind of a similar style relationship.
There's I mean, not compared to Gen, but like there is a flirtation almost, but not like you said, it's not like I hate to use the word sexual in Usagi Yojimbo, but like
right. Well,
there's nothing to it other than it's almost like just they're like kind of teasing each other.
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of like with Gen, how that like they have that relationship, but we don't see it as sexual because it's like, oh well, they're just buds. But since she is female, our minds can kind of be like, oh, maybe there's something there, but like it really is just kind of the relationship with Gen. I feel like where they're just kind of messing around with each other.
Well, I like how he uses her to mess with Gen too. So
yeah. We'll definitely get to that because that issue is that whole story and part of Gen and their interaction is so good because she plays Gen so well. Like when the time comes. So, anything else from this introduction you guys want to point out? Because I feel like it's just a very straightforward, kind of fun story where we get the Gambler again, but it's really just kind of an introduction to her.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Usagi beat some people up,
Yeah.
What else is new?
Yeah, it's a pretty standard kind of thing. So next we get what I thought like a very short but fun, for me was a fun story in with the flashback to him and his master, where he like
that was probably one of my favorites. I
enjoyed the heck out of this with him thinking that he actually got the best of his that he accidentally killed his master and the ghosts, and like I thought that was very entertaining. What do you guys think of this one?
It was funny, like especially the end where he's like, "Hey, you squashed our pumpkin. That's supposed to be our dinner."
I wonder how hard he was hitting him. If he thought like he hit him hard enough to smash his brains, like.
Apparently,
I mean, I don't know. It's the sort of thing where he's a kid and he's like never really hit someone that hard before, and he doesn't understand. He's just like, "Oh no, I did it too hard."
I mean, his face. He's like, "What have I done?"
That's actually the backup story.
Yeah, I think it's probably like a backup story. Or whatever.
It's only a couple pages.
Yeah, so it's a backup story for issue 32, where you've got Gaki.
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah. That's why I was like, wait a second, I thought we were talking about this one.
No, it's just included. So there's just a brief with him and his master, like just the backup. They did include the backup story in this page. So with him smashing, trying to get the better of his master and like hitting the pumpkin, and it's just kind of a goofy. I just thought it was kind of a goofy and fun story. So
it is. It's funny.
Yeah, I thought his master was like trying to teach him a lesson or something. But I like that he just comes back. He's like, "Oh, I was taking a dip in the hot springs. What happened back here?"
Yeah, he wasn't doing it. Yeah, he's like, "What is going on?"
Like they had it set up. I thought he like put it there. He's like, "Oh, he's gonna try and get me, but I'll get him." But no, he just was at the hot springs.
Yeah. All right. The next issue we delve into is we've delved back into the supernatural kind of portion of Usagi with Broken Ritual. Louis, I'll let you go first. What did you think of this one?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, so I think a lot of people know what seppuku is. I didn't know that there was more to it than just like, laying out the like your sword, all that stuff, and then committing it. I didn't know there was like the one slash, this slash, and then you're supposed to have your hand like finish you off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed
not your hand, but your
Yeah.
Yes.
Your second.
Yeah.
Yes, your right hand, like the guy there. But I also saw that someone else came up with the story for it, or
Sergio
by someone. So I didn't
Aragonés.
notice if he's done that before or not, but I
Mm.
thought that was kind of interesting. And
For those who don't
just
know,
bringing
he's most
okay.
probably well known for doing Gru.
Gru the Wanderer. Yeah.
Yeah, but he did a lot for like Mad Magazine. He's a similarly,
Satirical cartoonist.
yes, very much in the same vein. And at least in this version, he did the introduction to this trade as well.
Yeah.
Well, funny story. Stan Sakai started off as his letterer
Yeah,
for Gru the Wanderer. But yeah,
Yeah, Stan Sky just won Best Letterer at the Eisners this year too.
Again, like for the
Again.
23rd time.
he's got a hell of a hand.
Yeah,
For penmanship.
he definitely does. So,
But yeah,
wait,
this
you were
was
saying
really-
something else. Did you have something else there you were getting to on this one?
Oh no, yeah. I just think it's kind of cool how he's incorporating the supernatural elements of just Japan culture. I feel like there's a lot of it there, a lot of respect for it, and it's different here. Like we have the ghost hunting TV shows and stuff, but over there it's more of we need to be respectful. I like that he's showing that side. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, Jimmy, what about you? What do you think of this one?
This was, like I said, definitely one of my favorite out of the series, right? Because like those Japanese rituals that would seem very silly, in modern times, possibly even in their culture, are like some of the core of like the Japanese culture, like over hundreds of years, right, if not thousands, and the fact that they wove a story here where it's somebody who cannot rest because they were unable to complete the ritual to save their honor, right? I thought was a very just it was powerful in the storytelling, right? Beyond what you would expect from a normal comic book. But this one I think was I found to be more impressive than a lot of the others. But yeah, if you have an opportunity to read it, if you don't want to pick up the volume, it's issue number 33 of the first series. It's really powerful in the way the story is told, from the perspective of the villagers, and the backstory about the general who was who served in the same army that Usagi did for the same master, and was defeated in battle but wasn't allowed to complete his ritual of seppuku. So yeah, very, very cool story.
Alec, what about you? What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I feel like to Jimmy's point, we've certainly seen supernatural stuff and Japanese folklore stuff a lot throughout the volumes, but even though this is involving a ghost, it felt much more grounded to reality.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, for me, it was like much more powerful because, it was about, respecting the dead and allowing people to pass on in a way that fulfills their legacy or their wishes, or, so there's a lot more deeper thought to just like, oh, it's a ghost who's terrorizing the village. There's purpose, and it ties into like, both Louis and Jimmy said, like ties into traditional Japanese culture and more ways than just, the act of seppuku, but like the meaning behind it and what it represents and all this stuff. So it was, it was great. And I liked how he was able to, in the flashback stuff, he was kind of able to experiment with a slightly different style of inking.
I was going to mention that the way he changes just a little bit.
It's much more kind of like sketchy. But
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, you get this. I don't know if it comes across for me as like a little grittier.
Yeah.
Than you typically get from the more cartoony Usagi stuff, that it's a little just a little rougher around the edges than you normally get from Stan Sakai in terms of like the way he does his art. And yeah, I thought it was well done for the way he did in the flashback, for sure.
It like makes me think that, you know, like what he was going for was, you know, because it's a little bit, you know, edgier and rougher, that it was, you know, like a memory, right? Like, you know, it's not something that's like focused and sharp, you know. Somebody's telling a story on a, you know, on a recollection of what they experienced or what they knew. So yeah, so it kind of, you know, like the fact that he went with like a grittier edge to the artwork on that, I think definitely plays into something like that.
Well, and to your point, it's also like we've gotten flashbacks before, but they've always been first-person flashbacks, and this is not.
Yeah.
This is a third person telling someone else's story, and
Yeah,
so yeah, I do think that leads into it. But I just thought I agree with that. I thought it was really well done the way he did, just make those subtle changes. Like you can look in those panels, and then even the instant it goes back, it's just a little cleaner.
Yeah,
like crisper,
nice clean lines.
Yeah, in the lines, a little bit fewer lines, a little more, just a little cleaner and crisper art going on. I really enjoyed this as well. It was not, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was my favorite issue, but it was definitely it was just very well done. You guys have any other parts of this you want to do, and how Usagi, of course, being the honorable that he is, finds a way to put the ghost to rest. What did you guys think just about how he handled the end of this?
I liked it.
No.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot.
Too.
Yeah, I mean, completing the ceremony and putting the ghost to rest.
So, next issue, we continue on our, well, I guess it's probably just another backup, I guess, because it's only, 6 or 7 pages here. Usagi's The Tangled Skein.
I don't know if it was a backup. The backup in that last one was the fox, the rabbit, and the elephant. So.
Oh, well, I guess it does say 4, so maybe it was a whole issue. It's a very short if it was a whole issue. But yeah, we get Usagi, him telling a story, and we get him basically seeing the ghost of his master and fighting in, what is it? I forget what she's called. Some sort of Japanese demon thing, and Bakimano. I don't know exactly what those are, but that's not one I'd heard of before. But
I don't have that.
Oh, you don't have that?
That might have been in a Critters or something.
It doesn't say. It just says
There should be something in the directory.
Yeah.
Because this one actually.
Oh, I bet it's Critters. There is a Critters 38 that is in there. So I bet that's where it's from.
It is. Cracker Jacks.
Yeah. So there is. It did include Critters 38. So I bet that's what this one is.
Yeah,
so,
you guys have to tell me about that one. I haven't read. I mean, I think I have Critters 38, but I didn't pull it out with this this set.
So basically, it is him telling the story of how he escaped from the battlefield after his master was killed, and like fighting off, these other soldiers. And he goes to take refuge in this hut, and he finds an old woman there, and he goes to he's trying to rest, and he dreams of his lord, and basically he wakes up and realizes that she's not, this old woman is actually like this kind of demon creature. And he's losing. Like, this creature has got him cornered and using her powers and basically going to kill him, but his master shows up with all the arrows sticking out of him and everything else, and
that's pretty cool.
And saves him and kills the creature, and then fades away. Basically, with a comment, "You were always a loyal retainer, Usagi, but remember our words. A loyalty to his vassal is greater. And with that, but he's telling the story to the kid that he's been helping since the very first volume. And
Oh yeah.
What's her face? Gosh dang it, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. And it's basically a tale about like a lord being dedicated to his soldiers as well as everything else. So, Alec and Louis, did you guys read that one? Was that included in what you guys are reading?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it because it's like he brings back characters like at a good time, where it's like kind of like, I wonder how they're doing. Like we haven't heard from them in a minute, and then they just show up in something so small like this. And I also like it shows Usagi trying to impart wisdom on the younger people of this world, especially someone who's going to grow up to be someone who's an important figurehead in this world.
Right.
He's always trying to help others. And it just really shows how great of a person he is. Or Rabbit.
Alec, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. You know, these shorter stories are, you know, they don't have as much meat on the bone, obviously, but it was an interesting little storytelling technique. And like even Noriyuki says, "Imagined or not, Usagi, the lesson is still clear, and I will surely take it to heart." So, like, you know, Louis was just saying, he's telling him this story as like an allegory, to be like,
Right.
hey, this is how you need to treat people who have sworn their loyalty to you. But it is interesting because it's the one time where we really see Usagi like basically defeated.
Yes.
But it's all a fantasy. Like, so, you know, it's never, I mean, you have to assume this never really happened, that he's just telling him this tale for the sake of the point of it. And you know, so as you're reading it, you're like, oh, whoa, like Usagi's like really in danger here, but he still is, you know, kind of has this flawless record of
yeah. Yeah, because then at the end it is like, I woke up and I was in the woods, and did it happen? Was it my delirium? I don't know. But yeah, so it's then like, of course I didn't lose. But
You're not getting one over on me.
all right, so the next issue kicks off kind of the main story of this volume, which is Gen. So what do we think of? We meet our old friend Gen. Basically, Usagi comes across him being attacked by a pack of lizards and a Pied Piper type character to kick this off. So what do you think of our venture back down the road with our buddy Gen here as we go? Jimmy, what did you think about this?
That was a fun story. I mean, you know, I enjoyed that. You know, I mean, again, it's another one that's about honor and bravery and a lot of the tropes that are very strong to the Japanese culture. In this one, it's a lot with, you know, being that it's part of Gen's story. It's about his regrets and about his upbringing. You know, I mean, and you got, you know, how you can have problems with your parents, you know, unresolved issues with your parents, and you know you've forgotten them, and then you find out that they're gone, and then you realize that you can't, you know, you can't turn back the clock, right? You can't make amends because you always felt you had time. And there's a lot to this story, which again is another, I think, complex story that Stan Sakai's put out in a short volume, and it tells a much bigger picture about Gen and about his life. I want to say that it's carried through a couple of different. Yeah, there's a couple of different issues in here.
Yeah, I think it's 3 issues, or is it just 2?
I want to say it's 3. Yeah.
It's the first appearance of Gen's new horn.
Yes, he has the horn again.
Yeah. For a bit.
For a bit, yeah.
For a little bit, yeah. Well, for a story plot at least. So.
I also really like how, like, you know, Usagi comes to save him and then immediately starts busting his balls. He goes, "Thanks, Usagi. I owe you."
Actions.
He goes, "Thanks, Usagi. I owe you one." And he said, "You mean you'd owe me another one?" It doesn't give him any moment of
none, no respite.
His life
Chris-
is just in danger, and he's like, "No, you more than this. I have a tab." Like,
yeah, right.
He's keeping receipts the whole story.
Not that we're keeping track, but that's 7.
Yeah. So, I don't remember. Anybody else want to? Louis, what did you think about this? Just overall, we can dig into some points here, but what did you think overall of Gen's story here, his background that we get?
Oh, I loved it because Gen's definitely one of my favorite characters. He's just fun. He's almost kind of like, I guess you can say he's kind of like the Han Solo to this series, almost.
I
He's
wouldn't
kind
go
of
there,
just
but
like free going, just having fun, doing what he needs to do, trying to make a buck or whatever.
He's a level.
So when I saw it was called Gen, I was like, all right, finally we're going to learn more. And the way it starts off, him being chased by lizards, I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
are we actually going to learn anything here, or is it just going to be another fun tale? And then we learn that he is actually the son of someone who is very similar to Usagi. And that just made me question their relationship a bit. Like, what is that? Is it more of kind of he can see his father in him, but like the better quality, so that's why he gets along with him so well? Or, but yeah, I love Gen, and I really loved this story.
No. Alec, what about you? What did you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, as kind of like the biggest chunk of this volume, it really kept you engaged. Some of the other kind of longer form stories I feel like are more up and down, and this was I feel like maybe because it was so tied into a character that you can't help but enjoy. It really kind of had more of I don't know, more of an impact, I guess, more of a I don't know. It was really well done.
For me, it was like I just really enjoyed. It does a really good job of contrasting the way Usagi and Gen kind of see their worlds, and you finally get an idea of like why Gen sees the world that he is. But you also see him kind of struggling with his own honor, and his friend is trying to help this woman, and he knows like it has to do with his father, and struggling like not wanting to. Doesn't want to be his father, and yet he wants to. Like in some ways, I don't know. I just thought it was really well done as we see his struggle, and we get an insight into why he's kind of this loose Ronin that he is. That he doesn't really want to follow the path that Usagi does, but he also, like Louis said, I think he respects Usagi for doing it, but he like realizes where the downfalls are that maybe Usagi doesn't always see, and trying to be as honorable all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Or maybe, there's also kind of that thought of like, I understand why you follow it and I respect that, but it's just not for me. It's not my path.
yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like he doesn't want to become his father because he doesn't want to kind of inflict that pain on the others around him that he felt. But like he knows there's a right way to do it. He sees Usagi's doing it, but he fears he would be like his father if he were to truly follow it.
Yeah.
And like his father in the way that, he had, brought his hardship upon his family for his honor.
Yeah. So what do we think about his father's swords just showing up back in his hands at the end of this? Jimmy, what do you think?
I didn't think there was any other way that was going to happen,
Yeah.
Right.
It was a bit of a Deus Ex Machina, but,
Yeah.
whatever. For the sake of the story, it worked, and
It did. It was a good plot beat, for that to happen.
Yeah, I kind of liked it because it kind of gave him peace almost because he never knew what happened to him. His swords, he's like, I only know there's one way this would ever happen. And then we kind of see a similar scene to what he described when his mother died with his father. That was the only time he ever saw his father cry.
Yeah.
And then that's the only time we ever see him cry, is knowing what happened to his father.
Yeah, learning that he passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets that closure via finding the swords.
Mm-hmm.
And then immediately goes back to town and like starts busting Usagi's back for like over the money and stuff. So,
well, I mean, Gen's gonna be Gen, you know.
This is true.
Gangster's got to be gangster, you know.
So, any other highlights or points in his story that you guys want to discuss, or are you ready to kind
I
of?
mean, I already mentioned his horn. That's a point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we see
Point that
he
was
had a
broken.
Yeah, for 1 second.
replacement made.
Well, so they get captured, and then he's got to break the porcelain horn or the ceramic horn to get to the knife that he had put in there, which was brilliant. Great plot twist there, you know.
It's like
And
some
then
RoboCop stuff.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
I didn't even notice at first when Sagi's like, wait, what happened? How'd you have a new horn? I was like, oh, wait, yeah, you're not supposed to have a horn. And it's just like, oh, I got one, and there's a knife that we need inside of it, so go ahead and get that.
it worked,
It definitely worked. So
I mean,
but then he doesn't have the money to replace it. So
Yeah, but like for his character, would he not put a knife in there?
no way.
I mean,
It would
yeah.
always have a knife.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's definitely going to do something like that. It definitely completely fits in every way, for sure. So, do you guys have? What did you guys think of just the lady Asano and just the whole story arc that is, this and her quest for honor and tracking this guy down? What did you guys think of that side of this story?
I felt it was uncommon,
Yeah,
but I liked it.
Louis,
I
what
thought
about
it
you?
was cool how it demonstrate how much honor just means to their society. Just gave up literally everything just to feel that little bit of peace of restoring honor to her family.
Yeah, I mean, like she literally gives her life for it, but she clearly like is okay with that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Like it is, almost as if, if she hadn't been attacked or cut, stabbed or whatever happened to her, like she might have still just died after doing it because that was like
that
what
was the only
keeping
thing
her
she had
going.
left. Was
Yeah,
seeking that,
and she says, the Shirogeta clan is avenged, the gods be praised, and then she dies.
Yeah.
So I mean, I thought it was, a beautiful and sad way to kind of like frame the story.
I mean, to me, it's an interesting insight into what the links that what honor means in their culture, and the link that she goes to, and all the people, including like Gen's father, that like she was willing to and were willing to lay down their lives to avenge her husband, because
a noble lord.
Yeah, their noble lord, because that's what they were supposed to do. That was what he was. They were supposed to serve him in life, so they continue to serve, and it's just an interesting insight into.
And I think it gives Gen some perspective on his father too, right? Because it lets him see, like, oh, if you were willing to do this for your honor and like your what you were sworn to do, like I kind of understand why my father went to the lengths that he went to. I don't know.
No.
It's kind of tragic in a way because the Lord dies, but then so many others lose their life to this quest in the end.
Yeah.
Like they dedicate their entire lives to this and then die for it.
But that's what they all swore to do.
Yeah,
Exactly. And that I think that does bring a back, harkens back to a very important point that it goes all the way back to the beginning of the story about, Usagi and what he went through in order to try to avenge his master. Going through that whole thing that I think it was the last volume that we read, where they were finally able to, get the guy who had killed his master.
The traitor. The guy
But yeah, I mean, it really speaks to the honor and the duty, right? Not just the honor, but more specifically the duty of a samurai under a house, and what their responsibilities are, and it is to death.
And it's not something that, I mean, not at least that I have seen in Western culture, because you think about like all these people just laying down their lives for this thing. Seems like, oh, to us that would be silly, but to them that like,
yeah, it's everything.
It's everything. Like that is, they are bound by their honor and they are proud to die for their honor.
Absolutely. Yeah, from an anthropologically, I enjoy that very much. Just to be able to dive into those different cultures and see that come through, right? And we're talking about somebody who didn't live in that time, who's obviously learned in it, from his culture and his heritage, and is bringing those those ideas out, and is able to capture that and to illustrate it and to make it understandable, right? By us Westerners who don't know shit about it.
Yeah, a bunch of dummies.
But I would like to call back. This is something you guys probably didn't get to see. Is this beautiful cover by Ken Stacy of this issue?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Right, it's just stunning. So that's one of the drawbacks to the trade paperback bound volumes. Like sometimes they don't give the original art, and that art is just fantastic.
Yeah, that is a fantastic cover. You are correct.
One of the very few issues that actually has a cover art that not done by Stan Sakai.
Very cool.
And there's not many of them. I think there's only just a few.
All right. So next we get the return of Kitsune and her and Gen. So what did you guys think of this issue? Alec, what did you think of Kitsune laying the charm on with old Gen here as she goes through this issue?
It was great. One of the best. I like how they leave it really ambiguous if she is actually flirting with Gen or if she just realizes that he's like a mark.
He does not realize it.
Easy.
No, I know that he doesn't realize it, but I don't know if she is like actually like, oh, you're such a gentleman, or if she's like, oh, I can tell how I can butter this guy up to steal from him later.
Yeah.
Or maybe maybe some of both.
It goes without saying.
I think it's definitely some of both, but yeah, it is. But this opening sequence when they first meet, and she's like, and he draws her, and she's got like, she's laying it on pretty thick. Like, and the way even like Stan's drawing her, it's like, oh yeah,
I'm frightened.
Yeah.
Save me.
Help
me, Obi-Wan.
Yeah, so she's definitely she's playing him from the very beginning there, for sure. So,
and Usagi's just like, oh, brother.
Yeah, Usagi's like, I know better at this point.
Monster eye roll in the corner.
Yeah, you're right. You can't even see the eye roll there. She's like, oh my goodness. So yeah, but I love how they set this whole thing up of, Gen being constantly mad at Usagi for sticking his nose in other people's business, and we get to the end, and it's like, hey, she picked my pocket, and he's like, yep, that's what she does. He's like,
you knew.
Yeah, he just gives him. He's like, here's a coin. He's like, what for? I'm loaded. He's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, don't bet on it.
Traveling money.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes, I just didn't want to stick my nose in other people's affairs.
You knew she brought me and you didn't warn me.
Classic end to a Gen issue where like one of them has gotten the better of the other one.
Yeah, I love at the end.
I didn't want to stick my nose in other people's affairs.
Oh yeah, that was a big part of it. They were like, I don't get in this business anymore. Blah blah.
And I also liked the twist of like, they're worried about this rebellion and this guy hoarding oil so that he can, sell it after the trade routes are closed. And the guy comes in the end. He's like, oh, I just sold this guy all my oil for premium prices. And they're like, oh, sorry to give you the bad news, but there's going to be a rebellion. He's like, no, I set that up so you could buy my
Started that
oil,
rumor to get that guy.
which is so funny.
Yeah, this is in many ways maybe my favorite. Like, I really enjoy the other Gen story, but this one, just the humor in this is just so well done, and their interactions and the relationships here are just so well done in this whole issue. Jimmy, you have anything else to add on this one here as we go
No,
through it?
it just it's another one that's just had a really great story to it. Again, the interplay with Gen and Kitsune and Usagi taking a back seat and just letting it all unfold, right? Because he's gonna let his buddy get taken. Why? Because I mean, as much as he likes him, he doesn't trust him, and he knows that he needs to learn a lesson, at some point. Like, you keep doing this shit to me, like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna let somebody do it to you. But it's but in a fun way. And again, back to that, like, that's how she gets by. It's there's no judgment there, and he's letting his friend get taken. You got to appreciate that.
Yeah,
It's like his revenge, because the last bit, I don't think we mentioned it, but Usagi's keeping receipts and paying for everything. He's like, "Oh, this expensive hotel. Okay,
Yeah.
you're paying me back, right?" And then he loses the
That's
receipts,
right.
and he's like, "Well, there's no receipts. How can I pay you back?"
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
That's the funny part.
but yeah, I have to say, yeah, there's I love their reactions on their faces when the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I made that up."
Yeah.
And they've been going through all of this because
Like, we've been trying to help all these people, and it's all because you wanted to pull one over on this other guy who's dealing in oil.
yeah.
Well, he's dirty dealing.
Again, to get back together too, because Gen's gonna be mad immediately, and then she's gonna have those doe eyes again, and immediately he's just gonna be back to the way it was before, and she'll swindle him again.
Yeah, she's totally like gonna take money from him again later. So, all right, that brings us to the last story in this volume, which is the last story. What did we think of this one? I don't remember whose turn it is. Louis, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah. This one made me nervous the whole time, because through reading it, Stan Sakai has kind of been like very even. Characters will die, characters will survive. It's the last one, and it's a character that we've really learned to love over time, because he started off kind of as an enemy, and then they really become friends, but equals, and he just wants normal life. We come to him sick and stuff, and I'm like, please don't kill him. He's finally happy. But like, that's just something that happens in story all the time, is they're finally happy. The cop's 2 days away from retirement, and then that's it.
And gets capped in the street. Yeah.
But yeah, once we got to that, I was pretty happy with it, for sure.
Alec, what about you? What did you think of this one?
I thought it was like really, I mean, maybe not subtly beautiful, but like there is a beauty to it where there's this owl that keeps following them that Gen thinks is a harbinger of death. And so he's kind of worried that it means that Ino is going to die. And, he goes outside at one point after they kind of patched him up. And let me see if I can find it.
He's like throwing the rocks and
he's throwing the rocks at him, and he says something. I just want to make sure I don't misquote it. Come on, where are you?
It was about how it's the one night thing he's ever done.
He yells at the owl. He's not going to die. Do you hear me? You can't have it. The one decent thing I did was to give him his peace, and you won't take it away.
Yeah. So like, it is clearly a symbolic of his struggle with himself and kind of his self-worth, I guess, where he's like, because clearly he's done more of the good things. We've seen him do more good things than just that, but it's the one thing that like he sees as fully selfless. And so him fighting this owl, he's not really fighting an owl. He's fighting this idea that
it's fighting death. Yeah.
Right. And this idea that he is not worth anything if the one thing that he sees as good that he's done in his life is for nothing, then like what good is he almost?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really lovely sentiment.
Jimmy, what about you? What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% with Whale on that. It's a very, it's a well crafted story. It's, it definitely gets to the heart of Gen. I mean, I think it, like I said, it rounds out all of the, those characters' journeys with Usagi. I think I would have liked to see a little bit more, back to the bodyguard, where that extra story from Critters came from. But in general, because this is the last issue of Volume 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
So which brings us to our last episode, potentially. But yeah, like I don't think I've got anything else I can add to that.
I also really liked how they don't out him to his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because, he doesn't want to be seen as they know he doesn't want to be seen as what he was.
Yeah.
And to kind of spoil that for his wife, who sees him as just the man that he is. It would have been easy for them to explain it away, saying like, "Oh no, we know him because he was the samurai and blah blah blah, or this Ronin or whatever he was." But the fact that they just help him because they know they need to help him and kind of go on their way before he even wakes up. I thought that was really, speaks to their characters as well.
True.
And I know, Jimmy, you've read more Usagi than us, I'm assuming, but I don't know if he ever comes back. I hope he doesn't. I feel like this is probably feels like Stan's like when he's done with a character, he wants to make sure that they have the proper send off. And this feels like a good send off, and I really hope he doesn't come back.
I haven't read all of Volume 2, but I don't recall any additional stories with.
It's been 30 years, but he's been writing Usagi since. So,
but I mean, it would make sense that this is his swan song. That this, he is done with adventure. So to go back to him would be kind of a betrayal of. It would be cruel to his character.
Yeah. Really, we go back to him at this point, really to see the outcome of Gen letting him go before,
right?
And we get to see that he's managed to find the piece that he wanted. And so, I agree. I think it'd be a disservice to use him again.
So obviously, some authors are willing to, or some authors even enjoy torturing their own characters, but I don't feel like
that happens a lot now.
I feel like Stan Sakai is one of those who.
Have you read the X-Men?
Or Game of Thrones?
Yeah,
that 90s show.
Jon Snow. Sorry, I haven't watched that yet.
You haven't watched Game of Thrones yet?
No, that 90s show.
Yeah.
I haven't either. I don't want to.
Torturing the dad.
All right. So we are at the end of Volume 1. Thoughts on this first volume? Obviously, this set off Usagi's still going. Sakai found something that touched a lot of people in a positive way with these early issues of Usagi. It's a character that's endured. So what are your guys' thoughts, having either reread or read Volume 1 here for the first time? What's your kind of just general thoughts? Jimmy, you were the one that suggested this. I'm going to let you go first.
It's Stan Sakai's masterpiece, right? And we're talking about a guy who's been in the industry, who has done literally nothing else, right? He made one character, and he made one character that so many people have loved and enjoyed, and it stood out, right? It's a testament to his creative ability, to put a book out there, and get people involved in it, invested in the character over decades, right? I mean, this came out in the 80s? What was it?
88, I think, as it was saying. like on some of these issues.
What does that put us at, on the quick math? 35 years.
35 years.
I mean, that's impressive to do one thing that long, right? I mean, I don't think McFarlane's got that in his belt.
Almost.
Don't care how long Spawn's been in print.
Yeah, because he has not been involved in a lot of those issues.
Right.
Exactly, right?
Whereas
Yeah, I mean, like
Stan
Guest
Sakai
Rider
has
started
done
issue 6, right?
Stan Sakai has done all of it.
Yeah,
whole
I mean, and this is his
Beyond
baby,
the,
right?
the guest plotting maybe of some issues, but
Yeah, and he's able to spin that off into Space Usagi, and some other pieces. I think there might even be like another book out there or something like that that's got some characters from Usagi. I can't recall right now, but it's been a fantastic run. It's great going back and rereading it, right? Because I haven't read them since I was just out of high school. Because I mean this came out while I was in high school, and it was just enjoyable. Absolutely enjoyable. I have some of the like the thick omnibuses of the second volume, right? I'm looking forward to kind of getting into those in my spare time. I don't know if we'll go that deep into it, right? Because I think there's like 100 and something issues into that, and that might take us 10 years to get through.
I think it was 150 something.
Yeah, something like that. But there is a new series that came out a couple years ago. I think it's only up to about 25 or so issues.
Yeah.
And then they started reprinting these actually
In color.
in minis, right? With like artists like Peach Momoko and others, which again I think is more of a tribute to not just Stan as a creator, but to the character and how much people enjoyed and grew up on that. And Peach's art on it is fantastic.
Yeah, it fits her very well. Her Usagis
Yeah.
are all really good for her. I don't like all of her stuff, but her Usagis, every one I've seen, has been fantastic.
Yeah, and she's done some variants for the regular series too that have just been spot on.
Yeah. Louis, you were like me, new to Usagi when we started this. What did you think? Volume 1. What did you think of Usagi?
It's been a really cool experience because when we started that, I was really starting to burn out on comic books in general. I think a lot of that was just from like event heavy stuff, and that I really started meta reading things because like you get previews, you hear what's going to happen, stuff like that. So it was nice to jump into something that one I knew was going to be solid, but two that was going to be a completely different experience. And it really lit the fire in me again for reading. It's been fun the whole way. Even, I don't want to say bad stories, but like the kite story, like those kind of things, even those compared to some other things I read today, I enjoy infinitely more and has made me want to widen my horizons. I started reading a lot of manga now because of this. I'm finding a lot more fun in those. And yeah, I would say this is a really cool thing. It really, I want to say life change. I mean, I guess kind of a little bit, as weird as that sounds, but
Perspective shifting.
yeah, perspective shift. And it's been really cool. I really enjoy this.
Nice. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Alec, what about you? What do you on the reread? I believe this is a reread for you for sure. So what was your thoughts
Yeah,
on the
I mean,
reread of this volume?
it's no secret to me that he's an absolute master of the genre. Like I put him up there with the likes of Will Eisner and Jeff Smith as far as like just pure cartoonists who do things with a comic book and with the format that is just so masterful. Like, it is simple in a way, but there's not like all these crazy panel layouts and all this stuff, but like this shows that like sometimes less is more, that you can tell an amazing comic story without going through hoops and without doing all these like flashy things. It's just it's a visual medium, and you use that visual storytelling to tell a great story. And like with a 98% hit rate for every issue, it's like it is an achievement that few comic creators can match up to. It's just amazing.
Less is more.
Yeah.
And I do think so. For me, this was my, like I said, my first experience, and like Louis, this gives me, as someone who's read a lot of manga over the last decade or so, like this is, yeah, it's, I mean, he's obviously a Japanese artist. He's, you know, it's his culture and everything else, and he's taken that, he's brought that to the U.S. at a time when really that stuff hadn't crossed over very much. You think 88, there was really before a lot of that kind of stuff. Because I mean, this was
like Astro Boy and Speed Racer, and that was about.
Yeah, there were a few things,
Robotech.
but not what you see today, where you could go into like a bookstore and the manga section is like,
oh sure,
yeah,
and me as a kid growing up on this, I mean, like, I was always drawn to Kurosawa films and like Seven Samurai and just Bruce Lee, that kind of shit. Obviously we're talking Chinese versus Japanese on that, but the Kurosawa stuff and the samurai tales were always just something that was just a larger than life and just something I always enjoyed. So it definitely motivated me towards this. But you're absolutely right. We didn't have anything like this in the comic market, and arguably there's not much at all still to this day.
Well, no, I mean, it's something that's very much like obviously a lot of our characters are legacy characters that we deal with, but even like our artists and writers and the comics we get, they'll jump into different independents and they tell a lot of different stories. And the tradition of the Japanese, you get these. Stan Sakai's been doing Usagi for 35 plus years. Louis and I were mentioned One Piece right before we went on the air or whatever, and there's 1,088 issues of. That's what this guy's done for 27 years or whatever. Is that story? He's telling one story, and he's been doing it. And
I don't understand how like some of these Japanese artists like put out work at the rate they put out. It's incredible.
Yeah,
and like one a week. Like how?
It's what they do
for decades, and they just keep they keep cranking them out, and they tell these big, epic, long journeys of these characters and stuff. And I just. Having never read this, I'm so glad that we did decide to do this. And Stan Sakai is amazing. I love how he can go from like the silly humor and just witty banter that we get in that issue with Kitsami and Gen and Usagi to the issue that we got with the General and Usagi trying to put his spirit to rest, and you get these tonal shifts and they all fit. And it's just like Alex says, or someone would say, it's a masterpiece. It's Stan Sakai does amazing things in the medium, and it is super impressive. And I would recommend Usagi to anybody that enjoys comics. So,
and I'm sure we probably have said this before, but Stan Sakai is the sweetest, most humble person too. Like. There's so many artists that kind of get big heads when they have had a successful career for this long. But like,
right?
If you tell him you're a fan, he's you tell him when you meet him, if you tell him you're a fan, he's like so grateful.
Yeah.
And that's just it speaks to his character as well as his talent. So it's great when someone seems like a wonderful person in addition to being super talented.
For sure.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to eventually meeting him at a con. He was at C2E2 a year or so ago, and I just didn't get an opportunity. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the time when that does happen. I will cough Liefeld's name all I want. Him and his tiny ass feet.
Okay. Well, we're past our hour. We've covered this book. Any final thoughts anybody wants to say about this volume, or just about this book, or volume 1 of Usagi before we get out of here?
I know it was a long journey, but it was a pleasure doing this with you, John.
Yes,
it was absolutely.
I agree. It was definitely. It's been hard to our schedules have not. This group's schedules have not meshed very well, but it's been a joy to read it and discuss it with you guys for sure. Louis, any final thoughts?
It's fantastic, and I think everyone should read it.
Nice. And Jimmy, I'll give you the final word here because this
Oh.
was your idea to dive into Usagi.
I don't want it to stop. I can tell you that. Like, you know, I mean, I would definitely be welcome to us continuing this on in some, you know, you know, even if it's in a limited form. But yeah, no, I enjoy the time with all you guys in the panel, and obviously the character and Stan Sakai's work. But yeah, I'm interested to see like where this goes, the storyline, you know. But yeah, thanks for having us, JP. It's always a pleasure.
All right. With that, we're going to get out of here. Thanks, Gordon, Vinny, Basilisk, Kenneth, GTK, Sean, everybody that hung out with us tonight in the chat. I appreciate it. And yeah, we will catch you guys next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.